Train by day, Kyle Wigginton podcast by night, all day.
You know, I moved here from, doesn't matter where I put it.
I mean, I want to see your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I want to see your face.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I hate acting classes because I understand what they're doing.
Mm.
You know, they're just trying to get you used to being in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
Which I feel like that's what a lot of the acting exercises do, because you're with a bunch of people you don't know and you're doing all these like uncomfortable like movements and things. So they're trying to get used to your body and get you in uncomfortable situations. Because when you actually get on set and there's, 25, 30 people around you and they say action, you got to do this thing.
Yeah.
You have to be really you, I guess. But for me, the best learning technique was getting on set.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, that's like, that's the best, I think, for like almost anything. It's like being thrown into like the fire and just kind of like seeing like what you're made of, like when you're in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things I guess I appreciate about the acting classes. It's like, I guess I also wouldn't know how to get on set until like, I'm doing these classes and I'm allowing these people to see who I am, like where I'm being put out,
Yeah.
So,
for me, it was student films.
Oh, really?
That's why I broke into the field, I guess is what you would say.
Okay. What school did you go to?
It wasn't the school I went to. I was already out working, and then I was like, I need something else in my life.
Yeah.
So we were close to University of Central Arkansas, which has a really nice film program.
Yeah.
Which is crazy that you would think that, right?
It's always like these like small, like these like colleges that like are out in the middle of nowhere that aren't near any like what you consider like major hubs that like have these amazing like programs. Yeah.
And we got in there and started auditioning for these student films, and like our network just expanded overnight.
Okay.
Because there wasn't that many guys at that point in time in Central Arkansas that looked like me that was auditioning for them. So every film that I wanted, even though I sucked, like when I first started acting, I sucked so bad.
Yeah.
They would just cast me in everything.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like so like you did Arkansas, and then so people started calling you up like after you started making like the projects. Is that like?
Yeah. So I was already modeling at the time, and then I went from that to working in film, and then we came down here and started doing our thing down here, and started running this place and acting in commercials and things.
Yeah. I guess that's like kind of the beauty of like today's like technology is like being able to like it doesn't really matter where you're at, like as long as you're willing to like make your own content.
Yeah.
And I know that's like a big thing because I have friends like when I lived in Los Angeles, it's like you had to have like a certain follower base before like even a lot of like casting offices would even look at you.
I've heard of this shit. Yeah.
So it's like you would have to have like maybe like a couple hundred or a couple thousand followers because it's almost like I guess it's like free advertising before you get there. So it's like by you having like your own content page, it's like you're that many steps ahead of like anyone else that's just putting their face out there.
But how do you feel about that?
I think it's like.
Let me turn this way. That sounded great right there.
Right there. I think it's like a catch-22. I think like having someone that's also passionate about their own like content is like really necessary when you want them to promote like your own project. So like being able to like put out like your own like face and your own voice, like it almost helps you direct into like the things that like you want to do. So that helps, but I think it also kind of sucks for the people that like they're just trying to get their like just trying to act and just trying to get their voice out there, and then it's like, okay, well, we're never going to give you an opportunity to get into a room and meet anybody until you're actually like there.
Yeah.
So like somebody like could be an excellent actor and be perfect for the role, but if you don't have the follower base behind it, it's like you get snubbed from the role. And so instead of like being able to like promote a product, like you're out of luck at that point.
Yeah, and for me, I'm against it because of sometimes people get they call it shadow banned online. Yeah, like if they have opinions that differ from the norm, then they're gonna get essentially their content snuffled out by the algorithms on there. Yeah, so I think that it's really hurting artists that have genuine and opinions.
Yeah. No, it does. And, a lot of times people just kind of need like the fire to get inspired and be like put out there. So, but if you just constantly get turned down the door because like you're not making, hundreds of hours of like content beforehand, it's like, you're like, where does like the runway, fall off?
Yeah, that's why for me, when I stopped really auditioning for big projects. Yeah. And I started working on my friends' projects. Yeah. And I stopped posting online. Yeah. Like the only stuff I post online now are these podcasts, and then I post for the business. But when it comes to my own personal page, I don't even do it anymore. Yeah. Yeah. So I just like, I want to stay I want to just keep working on things with people that I know and I like.
Yeah. So what kind of content are you like looking to make? Like what are the projects that like you're passionate about?
I mean, it's whatever my friends are working on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of times they cast me in projects before they ever even write them. They're like, you're going to be in this project. You're going to be working on this. Would you like to play a bad character or a good character in this?
That's kind of a good place to be.
Yeah. And then they'll go write a project.
I imagine Christian Bale gets similar treatments too.
Well, I mean, way far off from Christian Bale. Okay. Even though American Psycho 2 hit me up.
Yeah. Actually, there was a second one.
I heard that.
Yeah. It was with Mila Kunis.
Yeah. I heard it was bad though.
Yeah. I didn't hear anything about it. Like, I know that it exists. I haven't seen it, but I do know it's out there.
Yeah, like it's the stuff we do is very, very much smaller than that. But at the same time, we're doing stuff. We're growing something, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, like, that's the best way to start. It's like you just slowly start like generating content. And as long as you're doing it regularly, it's like, you know, you kind of fit yourself into the algorithm and you find yourself like building up in a special way.
Yeah. For us too, one of the key things that we did was we started teaching ourselves all the different, you know, skills that are required to make films.
Right. Yeah.
So rather than actually having to depend on someone to give us a job, like, you know, dealing with casting directors and stuff, now we can just go and make our own content. And that's where I kind of got into the VFX world as well. Yeah. Like that was one of my skills that I was picking up to help the team.
Yeah. No, we talked a little bit about that before we went on to, we came on here today. What got you into visual effects? Like what was what kind of things do you like to do with it?
I honestly hate doing everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just sitting down and focusing for that amount of time is so hard for me. I have like the focus of a gnat.
Yeah.
Like I'm just everywhere all the time. So when it comes to actually doing those things, the first time that I do the effect is the only fun time for me to do it. If I have to regenerate the effect, 20, 30 times. Yeah. That's when it gets just boring as fuck to me.
Yeah.
But the coolest project that I ever did, and probably what actually got me into VFX was we did a web series called Collaborative Stories.
Okay.
And basically what we did was we started a Facebook group and we would post an episode. And so for instance, the episode would be like me walking into the room and then seeing you across the room.
Yeah.
And then we go to the audience and we say, now what happens next?
Okay.
And we let them build the story.
Right.
So then we have to figure out how to shoot everything and then turn another episode out the next week.
Okay.
So
that's kind of like a fun, like improv, like kind of like
that
project.
Got crazy so fucking fast.
Did
like
it?
Jumping through portals, going back in time.
Yeah.
Like letting the audience create the story was a nightmare.
And I love that like it like sets up like the perfect callbacks like over and over and over again, you know?
But it taught me how to edit because I mean I had to go figure out how to make these effects every week.
Right. Yeah. It visual effects, especially from like a professional standpoint, like if you don't like, doing it like over and over again, it's like that is what I do 1,000 times. Like I don't get a shot finaled until it's like version 20 sometimes. And it's just like redoing the same thing over and over again, being sent to like a producer, like a room of producers where they're all pointing at different things on the screen, like over and over and over again. But at the same time too, it's like my favorite like visual effect are the ones that like you don't see. The ones that are like invisible, the ones that like no one ever like my favorite thing. It's like when I tell somebody that I worked on a movie and they come back to me and they said like, what did you do? Like that's the best feeling in the world because it's like, you're just kind of like a little magician in like inside of there. It's like what I like to consider like, it's like, oh, you're kind of playing God in this sense.
It's definitely cool to take a shot where something's not there and then put it in there and make it look seamless.
Right.
Like you were telling me some of the effects you did on Iron Claw.
Yeah.
And that was, I didn't even see the effects in the movie.
Yeah. Iron Claw was it's like of like all the projects that I've worked on, Iron Claw and like maybe like one other one is like probably like ones I'm like personally proud of. Like when I go back and like I look at it and I see like just everything that's in it. The crowds were a big thing in that. And one just like working with A24 was phenomenal. Like those guys, like they truly have a real passion for the art of like storytelling. And you see it like when they're in their productions, like when they're out there. And it's like it's the only production I've worked on set that like they still use 8mm film. And it's like, just seeing like how they like, they work with that and the actors too, like while they're doing that, because like, with digital film today, it's like you only have like, you can like retake something like 1,000 times. With film, it's like you have like 2 or 3 like takes before like you just run out of film and you have to like take care of it. But like, working on that as far as like visual effects, it also helps a lot because like when you film on film like that, it's like, you get a lot more grace. Like, they're not trying to like reinvent the wheel. Like they have like a worked out method that's been used for at this point decades. And they're able to just recreate like they're just able to like, like create something and make it look like amazing. And the crowd work that we had to do in there, it's like they're all like CG crowds, except for like maybe like the first 2 rows of that entire film. And then like the one that like still blows me away today, and it's like looking at it is, do you remember the Sportatorium shot?
You're talking about the one. You're talking about the background of that, right?
Yeah, it's like it's a super long take where it's like it's like they're kind of like establishing like where they're
doing the wrestling matches.
The wrestling match, and it's like it's in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah,
and it's actually filmed out here in Baton Rouge. And it's just an abandoned furniture store.
Yeah.
And being able to replace like the entire neon sign out there, and like just seeing like how many times they like practice that take until like they got like the perfect take.
Yeah,
it was super cool. But it's like replacing it's like you're replacing like this huge neon sign on top that says Sportatorium. You're putting like a matte painting in the background that looks like the Dallas skyline. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, it's all the reflections in the cars underneath it too. So you have to like go through and you have to look at like the cars, like see where like that neon sign is projected, and then you reproject Sportatorium into it, and the water puddles on the ground. It's like you're fixing it so like these all like blend in together.
Yeah.
And it's still like one of the amazing things that like when you go back and look at it, it's like, oh, like what did we actually do here? And how
many days do you think that shot took you to edit?
Oh, I know the guy that did it. Yeah. And it took him almost the entire production. It was probably like an entire month of like back and forth and like us just critiquing it.
Yeah.
And like also just as like an artist, it's fun when like somebody like, sends you like their shot and they're like, hey, how can I make this better? How can I make this more real? Because like one of my favorite rules of visual effects is that it takes at least minimum 3 people to final a shot. Because like you have the initial artist that's like working on it, mm-hmm. and they'll like put everything out there, and it's like you can only stare at something so long before it becomes like this like a just like this mundane a pile of mud. Yeah. And it's like then you show it to somebody and they're like, oh hey, here's like 10 things you can fix, and then you show it to somebody else and they give you 10 more things to fix, and you just kind of keep doing that until it's like you're like, okay, this is good it's gonna get. Mm-hmm. And it's like it's something that like you can like sit there and critique it and push it like to the point that it's like perfection, but it's like at a certain point you just be like, this is like done, this is like where it's at right now. Yeah. So like probably overall like that one shot took him like probably like a month.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But then like
I would have been good for like the first 2 days, and I'd been like, yeah, I need something else.
I needed a whole new shot. Yeah. I get that. Like, but like, I was actually joking with the guy afterwards. I was like, this shot has everything. Like this shot has everything that you could ever want. Yeah. Like, because it has a matte painting, it has roto, it has a clean plate, it has like CG in it. And like, you can like use this for your entire demo reel. Mm-hmm. And like, cause like, that's a big thing for like visual effects artists is like your portfolio and like how you put it out there. And it's like that kind of shot. It's like, that's like a senior level, like, supervisor kind of like stuff.
Yeah, it's so good. That shot is in particular that he would need the before and after to actually show what he did, because you can't even tell.
Yeah. And, a lot of times like those kind of projects, it's like you don't really get before and afters. Mm-hmm. It's, and it's especially as a visual effects artist, it's like one of the most frustrating things. Like when I worked on Joker, that was a really like hard one. I had to like keep that like under wraps, like, just like, hey, like, we worked on visual effects. I mean, hopefully like we're far enough removed right now. Like no one's going to get me. But like,
snipers on the rooftop.
Yeah, I know. It's like, Todd Phillips is over there looking at me right now. But like, that was like a tough thing because like they wanted to like, say like, oh, they got all these things that happen like organically. And then like, you never get the chance to like actually like showcase your work. And especially as like a visual effects artist, that like that's a rough place to be. There was one project, I don't want to like drop the name of it here, but it's like we did a music video for them, and it was like a huge like deal because like we did all this work, and this one artist, they were standing on the back of a horse in this music video. And we had the green screen, like this person on top of the horse, and like, have them like, singing and dancing on top of the horse. And afterwards, like, it was a phenomenal shot. Like it looked amazing. We wanted to use it for like, showcasing for more work and more like, possibilities of doing other stuff like that. And the director just said, no, I don't want you guys to like be able to like do that. Yeah. It's because the director wanted to say.
But did he pay you more money after that?
No.
Okay.
No, that's got the catch-22 about post-production. Mm-hmm. And it's just because like the director just wanted to say like, oh, I directed that horse to stand there still.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like he was saying that it wasn't CGI.
Yeah. It wasn't CG. It wasn't anything fake. There was no post-production, which is like kind of like a big deal now. It's like, you see like Christopher Nolan, was it like the last like Maverick, Top Gun.
Yeah.
Like you see Tom Cruise going up on, talking about like, oh, like we flew all these jets, like we did it. There was no CG. Like I required all of my guys to do this. And it's like, and then of course, like the studios are pumping out their demo reels and just wipe, like showing all the backgrounds and like everything being put in there. And I think a lot of people, when they think about like CG and post-production work, they just think about, Optimus Prime, like, rolling out and like, giving this like grand speech in front of Lincoln Park. And it's like, they're like, oh, that's what CG is. But a lot of it is like those invisible effects, like, like that Sportatorium shot is like really cool. And like a lot of shots on like Iron Claw are really cool, but it's like in between each of those, like for what I do, I'm a compositor. In between each of those shots, there's like 100 that are just like remove the wire on the table, remove the boom mic that slides into the scene here. There's camera crew in the background. There's a Starbucks cup left over in Game of Thrones. It's like those are all like things that like have to get removed. The Starbucks cup didn't get removed until it came out, but it's like those are like the moment that you include that into a movie, it's visual effects. There's visual effects were used in that film.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that I would just be like, one shot and I'm good. But like removing 100 wires, like get it right on set, motherfuckers.
I agree with you, but it's one of those things. I'm like, if they were really good at that, like I wouldn't have a job.
That's true. Yeah.
Bread and butter. Yeah.
Well, someone recently reached out to me about doing a license plate, like taking license plates and pulling them off the shots and re-adding other license plates on.
Yeah.
Because apparently that's something they didn't think about whenever they were in production.
Oh yeah. It's a lot of times, like, especially like if you do like establishing shots, like, for example, like we did it out here where it's like this entire like street. It's like, they want to make it look like, I don't know, 1970s Louisiana, whatever it looked like. And then like they do it like come down, like everything that like is out here is probably different than what it was now. Yeah. Where it's like, the crossing, signs, the fire extinguishers, the lights on the light poles, like they're all different. Just
replacing all that stuff.
So it's like, to hire a production crew to do that and like go out there and replace and like have somebody that can like, eyeball those things. It's insanely, pricey, and it takes a lot of time because then it's like, the moment you're done, you have to put it all back. Mm-hmm. So it's actually easier just to hire, people like me to go out there and just like, replace it really quickly. Well,
that brings up one of the things that I've always been told about VFX artists is that they don't get paid enough.
That is like a thing that like, it's kind of like a big deal with like the recent strikes and everything, like the actors and the writers and stuff like that. And eventually IATSE. We're the only part of the filmmaking industry that doesn't have a union. So, as like not having a union, we get like, we often get like, probably like the bottom barrel of the shaft. Mm-hmm. So it's like, some places, they pay really well. Like, I've been very lucky. The places I worked recently has been phenomenal. They treated me really well. I got great benefits. I got, retirement, everything like that. But there are plenty of people out there, that just kind of get the sour end of the stick. And, hopefully in like the near future, it's like, that kind of gets shifted a little bit, especially with like, the upcoming AI and like how like that's kind of like sweeping into like the entire industry, is that like that's going to change everything. And if like the visual effects industry doesn't have a union, we could end up like finding ourselves without a job. Yeah. Like oftentimes when I'm on set, the only reason why I get a break is because I'm out there with IATSE guys and they get a break. So it's like, okay, well, no one else is doing anything. I guess I'm on break right now. Mm-hmm. So, it is a very tough place to be. But there are like really good places out there that like do take care of their artists. And, I think as like an artist, it's like really, it's important it should be important to you to work on your own craft, get better at it, so that like you can find yourself in those places and know when you're not being treated properly. Cause I've been there. I've been in places where it's like, I got 2-week contracts and like, so, and like, I just felt like it was a way that they could do that. And like, I wouldn't call in sick or I would never ask for a vacation because, I'm basically working for a paycheck at a time. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't know if I got extended until like the Friday that my contract ended. Like, hey, do you need me on Monday? And it's like, they're like, oh, we'll let you know. And then like 6 o'clock in the afternoon, they're like, hey, yeah, we need you for the next 2 weeks.
See, that's not a way to run a business.
Yeah.
And keep good employees, I would say.
Yeah, it's tough because it's like, it's especially as like a person, like, how do you live your life? Like, how do you like do anything? It's like, you're never
on edge all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And it just feels like you're constantly being like, under the wire, and you're just, it's a stressful spot to be. But yeah, visual effects artists, like, there was that whole thing with like Marvel not too long ago where they, they're just talking about like the artists being like worked into the ground. And it's because
those movies would have never been made without VFX artists.
Yeah. And, they, like those movies, like, they like, I love everything Endgame and before that. Like, I'm such an MCU nerd when it comes to it. But it took like the entire like industry complaining for them to finally be like, okay, like cool. Like, now we have like, somewhat of a union. Like we have like, we're taking care of the people that are like behind the scenes, like right now. And it's an industry that's like really fun because it's like, I don't know many people, and like, I have friends that have other jobs that like, you can be like, I point at something and I'm like, hey, I helped make that, like I did that. And it's a thing that it's like, okay, well, if that's not enough for you, we'll, go and find somebody else that like will take less pay just to have their name in the credits on the screen for like, 5 seconds. And, but then it's like, if you do that, it's just, you're just constantly like racing to the bottom.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's why we have so many shitty projects out there these days too. It seems like there are a lot of bad movies that are coming out.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that is like, we're kind of seeing the pendulum like kind of swing back, just cause like, just going from like somewhere that's like, we're talking about like movie fatigue. You know what I miss a lot is just the fun 90-minute film. Mm-hmm. The fun single serving 90-minute film that like doesn't need to have a universe built around it and need like 10 sequels after it. It's like Renfield was like one like last year that like, it was just a lot of fun. Like, it's like that popcorn flick that like, I just go in there and it's like, it's just, I'm having fun with it. And I'm not like overthinking this. It's just like, okay, like when I leave the theater, like I never have to think about this movie again.
Why do you think that? You think it's just a cash grab? That's the reason.
I think so. It's like, they're always, because like with the success MCU had with like Endgame and Infinity War and stuff like that, like they always kind of like promise this, hey, we're gonna have the good movies 5 movies away. The good movie is like coming up. So it's like, make sure you keep coming back and we'll like produce this for you. And, I've heard of like plenty of people, like, they write the scripts, like they write the stories, and the stories are really fun and they're, amazing. But then they never actually like, get made because they don't meet a certain algorithm, or they don't meet like a certain like quota that like that production company is like trying to make.
So they just shelve the projects.
Yeah, they shelve the projects, or they try and rewrite them to fit like another agenda that they might have.
Right.
And I think that's like probably like a bigger thing that like, and like I said, like, was it like even Marvel said like we're gonna pump the brakes on like how many movies we pump out every year. And they're gonna start focusing on like more character oriented stuff. And it's like, it's another reason why I think like A24 is such like a powerhouse in the film industry right now. It's because they tell original stories that like, again, like they don't make a lot of sequels. I think Maxine is like probably the only one that they have sequels for. Mm-hmm. I can't think of anything else that they're like, pumping out like, 5 or 6 films for. Yeah. And they even said like, oh, like now we're doing this, but like Blumhouse is another great, production company. Like they write like fun original stories, like, even though some of them are probably cheesy, like, but they're different. They're always different. You can't like say that they're,
Yeah, I love the different stories, man. I see him today's making so many remakes, like the Twister remake, and then
I kind of like that one.
I haven't seen it yet. I've heard it's a good movie.
Yeah,
but it's just my point is it's a cash grab, right?
Yeah. I will say that like as far as like sequels, I didn't ask for. Twister's like kind of like is like the best one in that like category. Independence Day 2 was like really hard for me to swallow.
You didn't like it?
I didn't like it. Okay. No, it was too much CG. Like, the characters were too cheesy.
So for me, I kind of like that one just because it was an extension of the world that we had already seen set up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool for me. I'd like to see the next one too, because there's going to be a next one.
Are they?
Yeah. I mean, the way they ended that one, there's definitely going to be a next one.
I barely remember how they ended it.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. I mean, it's going to be cool.
Yeah. what was it, like Twisters? I thought like
is that what they call this one?
Yeah, Twisters. Okay. Yeah, it's more than one. And they were really good. Like it was really good about like they're like, you know, making another story about chasing tornadoes and like, you know, the beauty behind it. And because like honestly, I love Twister 1 so much. It almost like I had meteorology class. I took meteorology classes as like, you know, electives in college.
Yeah.
It did enough different that like it didn't feel like a direct sequel, but they had tie-ins to it. It's like obviously the main guy, Clive Owen's character, he drove like the big red Dodge. The main girl, the girl from like I forget her name, but she's like in Where the Crawdads Sing. She you know, she like dresses up like Helen Hunt. Like, you know, she has like the sweater around the waist kind of thing. And it's like blonde hair, like tank top. It's like clear, like they're trying to make her look like Helen Hunt. But the one thing that they did not have was like a CG cow by any means. And but like, yeah, it's like the remakes, like I don't mind them so much as long as like they're just done like with perfect, like, you know, good homage to like the original like lore.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, you can kind of tell when they're a cash grab. But yeah, if they're actually like done correctly.
Jurassic World was like a hard one, like for me to like kind of like
so many Jurassics now.
I know. Yeah. It's, and especially like, you know, with like, you know, how good the first one was. It's like Terminator to me now, where it's like, there's like one really good, like original story to it. And then like every one after it is just kind of like, why are we still here doing this?
Yeah. That's for me, that's Fast and Furious.
Yeah, I love
like
those.
I have to go watch it because it's like I'm 12 movies deep now. I have to go see 13.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, and like there's not many franchises that like continue on like that far into it and still have like the original cast into it.
Yeah.
And but like those are like another example of just like good popcorn flicks. It's like, and I haven't had a good movie like that, you know, bring me into like a theater in just like so long, where it's like, you know, you know, it's like I used to have AMC A-list and now I just like I just don't even like find a desire to do it anymore. But like, yeah, it's like I think we're seeing like the pendulum swing in the other side, where, you know, we're gonna see a lot more original content. We're gonna see a lot more of this because like we've kind of had like at this point like 10 years of just kind of it's always a universe building kind of thing. I feel like DC is kind of like they're pumping the brakes on their thing. They're recalibrating. MCU is recalibrating. Like Star Wars, I don't know what they're doing anymore, but like they're another one that's like, it's just like they're all kind of like, you know, going back to recreating their own thing.
I love the Star Wars universe so much.
Yeah.
But I've heard bad reviews on the new thing. The Acolyte, yeah.
It's already canceled.
Really?
They got rid of it. It's out the door.
Like what was so bad about it? Did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched some of it and I kind of caught up with it. So first off, the fights in those are the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, they are good?
They're like, the fights are like awesome. My biggest problem with it was, personally, was it kind of just washed away why Anakin was so special. Like, you know, Anakin didn't have a father. He like was kind of created from the Force. And like this one, they're like, oh, like, you know, even before it came out, they're like, we're stepping away from the Skywalker saga and we're doing our own, you know, kind of like spin on like the Force and like everything like that. And they're like, okay, well, we just kind of did the same thing. It's like, here's these two twins, and they don't have a father, and they were born from this like witch's coven. And it's like, okay, well, you can't step away from the Skywalker. Say you're stepping away from the Skywalker saga and then just recreate the same thing.
Right.
And it's like they were saying, like their argument for it was, it's not the same thing because it was created by witchcraft. And to me, that's like the difference between like checkers and rallies.
Yeah. How are they going to say that witchcraft and the Force are the same thing?
Yeah. I didn't really fully understand that part, but it's like, it just like, it was like a weird, like, it was just like a weird transition to it. And it's kind of hard to swallow. It's like create the same thing, do whatever you want, like, you know, like, but like don't say that like you're making this like different and then just like basically feel like you copied your friend's homework and you changed some of the answers to not seem like you're exactly the same.
Yeah,
it's like that was like the biggest thing for me. But like there was like really cool things to it. Like I said, like lightsabers were awesome. They had Dark Sidious like come up at the end, and like that was like, I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait to see this.
So is this set in the past or is this in the future?
I think it's still set in the past. So it's like these two twins are like still there. I don't know if like they had anything to do with like, you know, how far away they are from like what happened with the Skywalker saga, but like it was definitely like it was still like, based in the past. But yeah, it's just like it took one season of it and they watched it already.
What was the reason they watched it? Just because people just didn't respond to it well?
Because like that. It just felt like they were probably pushing a certain agenda and they didn't want there just wasn't like, a lot of popularity behind it. And I think the two characters that they made were really interesting. And what's his name from Squid Games? Like the main guy from Squid Games, like he learned English to like, have a role in this. And so like, this is like his first time ever, like, have a full English speaking role. And he did amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just didn't have the popularity. And it's like, I think it's another case of like people just being burnt out on like certain IPs.
I'm telling you, man, I would watch anything Star Wars, but if they stick with the characters that we already have, like why should I care about some new character that you create? Unless it's tied into the world somewhere. Like I would love to have an Ahsoka series.
Yeah, and I didn't they make that? I thought they did do that.
They added her in like the Mandalorian.
Yeah, and I think like she did have like a couple episodes or something. I didn't watch it, but I mean Rosario Dawson, like she did a phenomenal job at it. You know what I really want, like more than anything in Star Wars? I want a Sith storyline. Yeah, like I want to see someone make bad choices their entire life and like. Not even necessarily bad, but just like, they just believe that like, the powers on the dark side are better.
I want to say in the Clone Wars, they had something similar to that. They told more of Darth Maul's. And
Clone Wars is one I really want to get into, but it kind of feels like almost like One Piece at this point where it's like there's just so much content to like catch up on. Yeah. Like I just feel like I missed the mark on that.
Dude, I've watched through it twice now.
Have you?
I really
How many episodes is it?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's like seasons and seasons. Mm-hmm. But they tell more of like Darth Maul's story.
Yeah.
And his brother. Oh my God. His brother's name?
I can't remember.
He's the brother though.
Yeah. Darth Maul's brother. We can call him, Keith Maul.
No, it's something crazy. Tom Maul. His name is awesome. That's why I can't remember. I can't believe I can't think of it now.
Yeah. But yeah, like, he's like him, like he's like one of the best single serving villains that Star Wars has ever produced. Yeah. Like, and also like his fight, like, was it like Duel of Fates? Best song in like Star Wars, like ever. Like say whatever you want about the original episodes. Like Darth Maul is like, he's hands down like one of the best. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad they dove into his story more in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a great show. And they also had the one where they talked about Ezra. What was that one called? The Ezra. Rebel Alliance.
Yeah. The one that Freddie Prinze Jr. was like, he did a voice on it, I think, right? Yeah. Because I know he's another big Star Wars fan. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But like, yeah, it's like I just want like because like there's been so much good content with like Darth Vader recently. I'm like, I want more of this. Yeah. I want to see like I it's like I love the idea of Jedis. I think they're awesome. Like, but they always like reserve their powers, and it's like we don't see a lot of like true master Jedi fighting, and it's like the Sith and like the dark side. They just kind of like they're not afraid to go all out like that. Darth Vader and Obi-Wan series, like that was like one of the coolest series I had seen since probably like Rogue One.
Yeah, what was the last fight where he actually unleashed the power of the Jedis? Yeah, where he like. All the Jedis came with him or something.
Oh, was that? No, that was in.
What was that one in?
Are you talking about? Was it the Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, where it's like.
That's what I would like to see them actually unleash the full power of the.
Yeah, like show me like why like the Jedi are like so powerful. When I'm over here watching Darth Vader catch like a ship in midair and just like rip it down to the ground and like just like tear doors open and stuff just to get Obi-Wan back. It's like. I want to know what that looks like.
Yeah, because they're convincing me that I'm going to be dark right now.
Yeah, I know it's right. It's kind of fun, and like I like the color red. It's like it's like the robes look awesome and everything. It's like what was there was like they did that also that one series where it was like it had different episodes and they're all different stories and it was different animation styles.
Yeah.
And like the first one was he was a force wielder. That he wasn't evil, but he used dark side powers, and it's just like he still did like good with it. And it's like I love like that moral like standpoint where it's like he felt like he could defend the good better with their powers than he could with like Jedi powers.
That's kind of where Ahsoka falls in too, right?
I think so. Is that why she has like the gray lightsaber?
Yeah, because she's
I feel like you know more about it because you watch Clone Wars and stuff.
Yeah, because she's like in the middle now. Because I mean the way the Jedi kind of turned her back on her, she didn't want to go the dark way, but she walked away from the Jedi, so she's in the middle.
Yeah, it's like Anakin, like they just like they push Anakin so far. It's like you are the rank of master, but we do not, or like what is it like we rank you on the council, but you're not master. Yeah.
But I think that's the beauty of those stories, and I think that's what's missing in the new stories that are made is like we're all walking this moral line. In life, and that's what these shows like they represent to us.
Yeah, exactly, and it's like. I think like kind of stepping away from like the Skywalker saga and just like letting it be like its own story and then like allowing people to kind of like bend the rules that like, we kind of have been like, ingesting forever. It's like allow that story to be flushed out. Allow the story of the bad guy turned good, but he doesn't want to give up his red lightsaber or like, allow that to be kind of like, thing. Cause like, I always hear it like I'm not like super well versed on it. Like, when it comes to like lore and stuff. But the idea behind that, like, like the crystal like reflects like who you are, like as a person, like I think that's like a super cool like thing to go into because like I think there is a point in that, like in the Acolyte, they kind of play on that. Like I said, the Acolyte had some like really cool things, but like there were other points I felt really weird about. There's a part where they're like fighting, and it's like the hue of like the lightsaber changes. So like you see the shift in like the main character as they're like fighting through it. And but then the other things that are kind of weird, it's like the opening scene where they had Jedi Trinity. I forget her name. She's like Trinity from The Matrix.
Okay.
Yeah, she's like the first, like she has like the opening fight scene with like one of the twins. She like pulls out like she gets like found out to be a Jedi like in this bar, and the twin that finds her is like one that's like she's like dedicated her life to like, killing off Jedi. She, like all of a sudden when Jedi Trinity pulls out her lightsaber, she says, "Oh, a Jedi only pulls out their lightsaber when they intend to kill." And I'm just thinking about all these like weird scenes in my head where it's like, episode 1, 2, and 3, where it's like, or even like Luke, when he unleashes lightsaber in Obi-Wan, the first, I'm like, oh, like, it's like, okay, like it doesn't feel like there's like a lot of care for the lore out here. And one of the creators too, I remember, listening to like their interview where they're talking about that moral differences with like Jedi and Sith, and they say this when Anakin blows up the Death Star and like he kills like thousands of people, it's like, oh, is that not a moral sin? I'm like, Anakin didn't blow up the Death Star. Like it's like it just feels like you don't really care about like the content that you're creating right now. Yeah, so it's like. Yeah, it's like just kind of going back to like, what we were talking about. It's like,
why did they even put that out there? That shouldn't even been an interview. They should have been like, dude.
Yeah. And it's like, why? Like somebody should have caught that. PR should have caught that and just said like, hey, like you're not like paying attention to this. It's just like, it feels like there's been like a lack of like care for the content that's being created. And like I said, I think we're overall, we're just seeing the shift in just like Hollywood, where it's like, okay, like we're going to focus on the things that like, people want, people just want good storytelling. They don't want like, an agenda being pushed. They don't want like a certain look to be put out there. Like they just want fun stories. Like
that is how I feel about a lot of the stuff that's being made these days, like the Madam Web thing. And then they also made a Batman with a female lead, and that one never even saw the light of day. They made the film.
You're talking about Batgirl?
I don't know what it was called, but it was the chick that was
Rose. Yeah. Well, she was like Batgirl. It was like a different story. It was like the part of that CW franchise.
The what I heard was they shelved the project that so did they actually release that one?
Yeah, that was okay. So I think these are like two different projects. So there was one the one that you're talking about with Rose from like Orange is the New Black.
Yeah,
and there was a few seasons of that, and because like I think it's Batwoman, not Batgirl. Like the Bat Family is like another one that's like, it just goes down this rabbit hole that like, I love like, the original ones, but like, Batwoman, and they actually had a few seasons of that. And then she stepped away because she felt, last I read it, that she didn't like the pressure of it. And so she started doing her own, she just like stepped away from it completely. And I haven't seen her in anything since then. And then there was Batgirl, which actually sounded really cool. Like they, I forget the director that was tied to it, but they actually like, it was Brendan Fraser. He played Firefly in it. And like, apparently he did like a phenomenal role at it. It was like, apparently like, It's like that and like The Whale were like, that's how like good like he was in this movie. And they
didn't release it.
They didn't release it.
But why?
I don't know, and it's like that's like that catch of like why release Flashpoint? It's like is it just because it's Michael Keaton in it? Is it because Ezra Miller is like a hot topic? People are going to go see it because he's like he's crazy. Yeah, he's a crazy guy. Like get him out there. I was saying that like I thought like Flashpoint, which is like one of my favorite DC stories, became like this. They just invested so much money into it that they were like, we can't like not release it.
Right.
But why wouldn't you do that for Batgirl also? Because it's like, I know a lot of people are really excited about that. Like, you're talking about Commissioner Gordon's daughter. Like, she has like, she's a cool character on herself. And it's like, I mean, who doesn't love Brendan Fraser? Mm-hmm. It did make me sad that like Flashpoint was like the last time I would see Michael Keaton as Batman. And like, that's a sour taste to swallow. But like that one, yeah, I'm a little sad about Batgirl. Batwoman though, that was part of the CW series, which was like, it's kind of cool in its own right. They had, it was like Green Arrow and the Flash and like stuff like, and they even introduced Superman at some point. Mm-hmm. But without Batman, it's kind of weird.
I agree. Yeah, I think I didn't mind Flashpoint though. I thought it was pretty good.
Did you?
Yeah, I wasn't mad at it.
Yeah, there was like things I liked about it.
I really liked the female Superman.
Yeah, she was awesome. I wish like she got her own franchise. Like she was like really good. She was good. Michael Keaton, awesome as always. Yep. Ezra Miller doing his best, like Sean Penn, 10 times at Fast Times at Ridgemont High was like a little weird. I think that's when he was in, right? Fast Times.
I don't know.
Yeah. Just like playing this awkward stony kid. Like that was a little weird. Like honestly, Ezra kind of like annoyed me with that one.
He just happens to be the main character in there, but yeah, the surrounding characters in there were phenomenal.
Yeah, for sure. And the weird worlds colliding at the end, like I don't think anybody knew that like Nicolas Cage had auditioned for Superman at some point. So that was like a lot of people were like, what? Like they just got like, it's funny. I actually brought a girl like on the first date to see that movie.
Yeah,
she didn't talk to me again after that movie.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Because it was like I remember we had matched on like a dating app, and she's like, "What are you doing this week?" And I'm like, I'm kind of ashamed to admit this, but I really want to go see Flashpoint. And she's like, "Why would you be ashamed to say that?" And I'm like, "Oh, there's just a lot going on around it." And I'm like, "But I like Michael Keaton, and I love Flashpoint, so I got to go see this." And she's like, "Well, can I join you?" And I'm like, "Okay." And she came and she met me at the movie theater. And we sat through the movie and everything. Like we got like drinks before, and I kind of like gave her like what point of Flashpoint was, but I didn't tell her about anything going on with Ezra Miller. And we went to afterwards, like I walked her back to her car, and she gets to the car. She goes like, I'm just not feeling this. And she gets in the car and drove away. And like I just never heard from her again.
Dude, Ezra Miller, he's a very interesting guy.
Yeah. I don't think we're ever going to see from him again, honestly.
Well, you think he's just going to disappear?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like a hard thing to come back from. It's like, this like,
especially like a cult and stuff, didn't he? Or what was it?
I don't know if he was in a cult. I mean, because like Jared Leto's in a cult, and he's still pretty, he's still pretty popular. But like he did like that thing where he like kidnapped his girlfriend, and like apparently there was a whole thing like he like groomed her. Like, and
she was like a young girl, right?
Yeah, like she was under 18, and then he groomed her until she was like of age, and then like kidnapped her, and her family didn't know where she was, and like he was like wanted and all this stuff, and then like he was like in Hollywood, and like people would just come up and like harass him, and like it's like, why isn't anyone arresting you? Like how are you still out here doing like these things that you're allowed to be doing? Yeah. And I remember even like the press tour for Flashpoint, it was really weird seeing him in that, because he wasn't like talking. He wasn't allowed to like go up and do interviews or anything like that. And he's like the star of the movie.
Yeah.
But it was all Michael Keaton and I forget the name of the girl that played Supergirl. But it was just the two of them like talking the entire time.
Yeah, but like, would you think that he's always been that way, or do you think that Hollywood made him that way?
I think it's probably a mix of both.
Yeah.
Cause like he had a career like up until there. Like he did like, Perks of Being a Perks of Being a Wildflower, which is like a phenomenal, like up and coming like story of like a teenager. He did We Need to Talk About Kevin. He's been around, but like I don't know like what happened. It seemed like the moment he was in Justice League, which didn't do really well. Maybe that's what set him over the edge. You know, he just kind of started doing weird stuff.
I just think a lot of actors are just weird fucking people. I'm saying this because I am also an actor.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm a weird guy.
I'm diving into that world right now. So it's like, you know, I'm wondering like what my weirdness is going to be. Like, hopefully it's not that weird, but you know, it's like what it's going to be. It takes like a certain kind of person to be able to like, you know, look at yourself on screen and, you know, like judge yourself like that. Cause like a lot of people don't have like the nerve to, you know, go in front of a camera and like film things, put their stuff out there, or even like stand up on stage and do comedy.
Yeah.
It like, you know, it takes like, you know, a certain like mindset to be able to like, you know, put yourself out there.
To cry in a room full of 20 people.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, that's like, it's like cheaper than therapy, but it's like, you know, I find it more therapeutic sometimes.
I absolutely do. Yeah. That was a big part that helped me in my mid 20s with just playing different characters.
Yeah.
I got to separate myself from Kyle and like learn how these people are.
Right. Yeah. That's like comedy is like kind of like a new thing that like I've kind of like, you know, slowly like dived into the world of film and stuff like that. I've always kind of like done that, but I've never been in front of camera. But being able to like speak lines for another person and like put myself into those scenarios, it helps a lot. Cause it's like, you know, just even like day to day, like, you know, interaction with people, it's like learning how to be charismatic like that and like, you know, express yourself in a certain way. It's like
we're all playing different characters all day long.
Yeah, exactly. Like you wear different faces based on who you're around. Like, you know, I have friends on the East Coast and friends on the West Coast, and like who I am to each of those people are like completely different, you know? And now like knowing like when you're doing that, and, like knowing how you have to change it, like it's a skill. It's like, you know, it's an aura all in itself.
But it's one that can be taught and learned.
Exactly. Yeah. One thing that like I remember, I was always like, I lived in Los Angeles for a couple of years, and my friends were SAG actors out there, and I was always envious of like how they could like enter a room and like just take over the room, and like, you know, they could tell you a story, and like the way they told you that story, it was like such an engulfing like thing. It's like I'm like all of a sudden I'm listening to them and I'm like super excited to hear everything they have to say, and I'm like, oh wow, thank you so much. Like, you know, it's like, and they're just telling me about how they came home from work, and it's like it's a gift. It's like, and you know, to be able to do that, and it's like, you know, like to have that like that presence, it's, you know, it's really amazing. So that's the reason why, like, one of the reasons why I'm trying to get into acting is like, not even just necessarily to like hope that like I get picked up into something big, but just to be able to like meet people and like, you know, just be able to like have that, like that confidence and charisma that like, you know, actors and stand-up comedians seem to have. Yeah.
No, that's also why I love hanging out at this place right here, because we have a lot of people that come through.
Yeah.
And not only, I mean, you get to learn from these people.
Yeah.
Like you're sitting there talking to them and you're like, why is this person so encapsulating?
Yeah. It's like, it's confidence. Like, that's what I think it is. It's like, you know, like the ability just to stand up there, like no matter like who's in the room or like anything like that is like what makes, you know, like you such a special person.
Yeah.
I will say like, as far as like, you know, the open mics that I've been to, like the ones here have like the biggest range of people that I've like seen as far as like, you know, just like doing stand up out here. Because like stand up in New Orleans has been probably like the one I've stuck with the longest. I did it a few times in Los Angeles, and I didn't really stick to it, but like out here I've stuck to it the longest. And here I've seen like the widest variety. So it's like, it's a really cool environment that like you've created like out here, you and Ben, like with him like hosting the show on Tuesdays and like you doing the podcast out here. So it's like, it's super cool.
Yeah. And like we don't, in here, it's unfiltered. Like there are a lot of places that you go to and the comedians can't say certain jokes.
Yeah.
Because they'll get banned from the place or whatever.
Really?
Yeah. It's like, here, dude, say whatever the fuck you want.
Can you give like an example of that? Or is it like, just so I know which ones to avoid?
Yeah, you could ask the comedians. They would know more than I would.
Yeah.
But there are a few places that if you go to and you say things that are kind of racy, then they'll just ask you not to come back.
Gotcha. Yeah. Because I noticed like some bars, it's like there's they're very far left. And I feel like I would like teeter on that line of just like, okay, like, you know, you can't be here anymore.
Yeah. White male. Yeah.
Yeah. Not like any of my jokes are like that racy. They're usually just talking about my past, like, you know, relationship traumas, but like, it's
some people don't even like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also like, I feel like that's like kind of like part of the gift of like, you know, you're talking about like being an actor, being able to go into any room in any place and like being able to like know your audience. That's like a tough thing to know as well. And like being able to like get out there and like, you know, express certain things.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you like, you want to exercise that as a muscle, you know, it's like, I feel like drama would be like something I'm really hard at. Like I'm pretty decent at like improv, and, you know, and comedy, like, you know, please no actor ever tell me that. Yeah. But like I'm like, I can pick up on it easier than drama. like that makes me want to be better at drama. It's like being able to go into a room with people that like, hey, we don't really like the straight white male, but like, I'm going to give him a reason to laugh. I'm going to give him a reason to like enjoy me, and
I just lean into it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if I walk into a room, like for instance, the other night we went to the Goat to watch a band play.
Okay.
And as soon as we walked into the Goat, there was a guy in there that doesn't really care for me too much.
Yeah.
So he immediately started telling
I don't like that guy already.
Yeah. He immediately started telling the people around him that I was a bad person.
Really?
So I just became the bad person.
Oof.
I was like, if that's what you want me to be, then fuck it. Because all of them were looking at me like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even give me a chance.
It's like also just as like a person, if like out of nowhere you start like talking to me about somebody else, I don't like you.
Yeah, that's the way I think too. Yeah. Yes.
Like I don't want to talk. I don't want to be in your presence because like if you're doing that with this person that you probably hardly know, like what are you gonna do about me? Yeah. Like when you're like later on, like with other friends, like you're gossiping around town.
Dude, that's exactly why I'm not a big fan of that guy either.
Yeah.
But I would never walk up to my friends and go, "Hey, this guy right here is bad." Yeah, it's like I'm gonna let him show you why.
Yeah, he's exactly. Because like I mean, they're like those people are gonna eventually show their true colors, and it's like they're gaining credit on themselves based on how they're talking about other people. Yeah. And like to me, that's a bad sign of like who you are as a person.
I agree.
And it's like one thing like I've been really like I guess like really fortunate with and I talked to a lot of people who do stand-up comedy, like my my best friend Alan in Orlando. He does stand-up comedy out there, and like he's been doing it for years. He's like, oh, just be careful. Like certain people, like they may not enjoy it like you. One thing I've been really lucky about with like New Orleans stand-up comedy is that like every room I've been in has been crazy supportive. Mm-hmm. Like I've been very lucky, like, even Ben, like, he just like, every time I get off stage, he's giving me like pointers and stuff. And it's like, I get to go step outside and like, everybody's like kind of giving me like advice and stuff like that. And I've been very lucky with that. Yeah. Not to say that like it won't happen eventually, but like, like I've had nights that I bombed and like, stuff like that, but like no one's ever like just gone up there and be like, dude, you're not funny. Like, why are you out here? Like, there's no point for you to being on stage. Like you're sweaty, like go home, it's like, so
I've seen one of the comedians here do that to someone before too.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like, but like, why? It's like, why would you do that?
Honestly, I don't know why he did it, but I was literally standing there when he said it to him. And I was like, I thought he was joking at first. And he just walked off. And I was like, what the?
Oh my God. Like one thing I've noticed, especially like, even working in film, especially like post-production, like, you never know who is going to be next to you 10 years from now.
Right.
Like you never know who's going to be the person hosting a show or looking for an open or looking for anything like that. It's like, same thing, like visually, like you never know who your lead is going to be. You never know who your supervisor is going to be. Just be nice to everybody. Mm-hmm. Just be friendly to everybody. It's like the guy at the bar. Like you don't know like what bar he's going to go to later where he's like, like, oh dude, that guy's a gossiper. Mm-hmm. That guy, like, just stay away from him. It's like, just be nice. Like, get out there, like be a friendly person.
Yeah.
And like, it's like, you're like, it's like, like my mom always said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. It's like, just like, like I love the idea of like, I'm always open to being critiqued. I'm always open to being better at like whatever my craft is. I'm a big fan of the one bad thing, two good things. Like, hey man, you went up there. That's a big thing to say. I would adjust this joke to be like this, just like, put it out there like that.
Yeah.
Like that formula. It's like, you're already like friendlier to everybody else. And it's like, and that person's always going to remember you for that. And so I think like that's just like, you're not helping anything by making someone else have a bad time,
by tearing someone down. No,
yeah. And so like, even in post-production, I've seen like plenty of people like where their careers fizzle out because they get so arrogant and cocky about like, their own craft that they dismiss everybody else. And it's like, then they never find a job again. Like, it doesn't matter how talented you are. It's like, can I be in a room with you or be involved with you on the 12th hour when we're really trying to crank out this project so that like, I don't want to strangle you by the end of this. Right. It's like, are you good enough person to do that? And it doesn't matter like how good you are at it. It's like everybody, most people can pull a key on a green screen. Most people can do a track. Most people can rotoscope almost anything. Do I enjoy being around you like while you're doing that? Like that's like, to me, that like tells like the story of who you are as a person and just like who you are as like a worker. It's like, and I think that's like a big thing that a lot of people just don't seem to understand.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to stop us right there, man. Because we got a hard out at 2:00.
We do, yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation today, Kevin.
Yeah, dude.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. No, thank you for having me out here.